There's a specific tightening in the chest that happens when you read your own words back and they sound wrong. Not wrong like a typo. Wrong like someone else wrote them and left before you could ask what they meant. This feeling didn't start with phones. People have felt it after saying the wrong thing at a dinner table, after sealing a letter and wishing, halfway to the mailbox, that they could unwrite a sentence. The body has always known this particular discomfort. What changed is the number of chances you get before anyone else sees anything. So the text gets rewritten, then rewritten again. 3 words become 5, 5 become 2, 2 get deleted, and the whole message starts over from an empty field, cursor blinking like it's waiting for you to just be a person about it. Hey becomes hi, becomes hello, becomes nothing, just straight into the sentence. Because apparently, even greetings carry too much information now. A period at the end gets deleted because periods sound aggressive. An exclamation point gets added, then removed, because too much enthusiasm reads as fake. On the surface, this looks like care. Maybe it even is. A wish not to come across as cold, or needy, or too much. You tell yourself you're just choosing the right words. Everyone does that sometimes. A little editing never hurt anyone. But watch how long it actually takes. Watch how a text to a close friend, someone who has seen you at your worst, gets the same treatment as a message to someone you're trying to impress. That's the part that doesn't add up if this were really about precision. Here's what's actually happening underneath. Every rewrite is a small vote on which version of you gets to exist in this exchange. The blunt one, the funny one, the one who doesn't care, the one who cares too much. And the more options you generate, the less obvious it becomes which one was ever true to begin with. There's research on this, not about texting specifically, but about what happens to a person's sense of self when it keeps getting revised. People with a clearer, steadier sense of who they are report far less internal conflict and far less of this looping self-doubt. The instability isn't really about the message. It's about not having a fixed place to send the message from. And texting made this worse in a very particular way. Talking out loud, the words leave your mouth and they're gone, imperfect and irretrievable, which is its own kind of mercy. A screen doesn't work like that. It holds the sentence still and lets you stare at it, which means it also lets you doubt it, indefinitely, until doubting becomes the actual activity instead of communicating. Something else is going on too. When a message can be optimized before it's sent, sending stops feeling like sharing something and starts feeling like performing something. You're not describing what you feel anymore. You're auditioning versions of yourself and picking whichever one seems least likely to be misread, disliked, or held against you later. This shows up hardest in messages that matter least on paper. A reply to a group chat about weekend plans gets 4 drafts. A text to someone who already loves you unconditionally gets reworded until it barely says what you meant. The mismatch is the tell. Effort scaled to something other than the actual conversation. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. This isn't really about the other person at all. If it were, one honest draft would be enough, because honesty tends to land, even when it's imperfect. What's actually being managed is your own tolerance for how you might be perceived. The recipient is almost incidental. You're editing a version of yourself for an audience that hasn't even read anything yet. People who do this a lot rarely think of it as anxiety. They think of it as standards. High standards for communication, for tone, for not being misunderstood. But standards usually point outward, toward getting something right. This points inward, toward not being caught being anything specific at all. There's a strange kind of safety in never sending the first draft. If the first draft never sees daylight, it never gets rejected. Only the edited, filtered, focus-grouped with yourself version goes out. Which means, if that version gets rejected, part of you can tell yourself it wasn't really you they didn't like. It was a performance. The real you stayed home, unread, unsent, still technically undefeated. That's the part that rarely gets said. The rewriting isn't really about being liked. It's about staying one layer removed from being fully seen, so that if it goes wrong, it wasn't quite you it went wrong for. And the paradox is that this protects you from almost nothing. People can usually tell when a message has been worked over. There's a texture to overwritten language, a flatness, a carefulness that reads as distance even when the words themselves are warm. The very habit meant to make you likable can end up making you feel slightly unreachable instead. So the drafts keep piling up in the space before send, each one closer to something, though it's never entirely clear what. Maybe it isn't about finding the right words at all. Maybe it's about not yet being ready to find out what happens when the real ones get out. I don't think this fixes itself with a trick, a tip, or 3 steps to sound more natural. It probably just gets noticed, slowly, one over-edited message at a time, if you're paying attention. Subscribe if you want to keep noticing what's actually happening in the small moments you thought were just about wording.